Thanks for watching Endgame Economics. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. It's completely free for you, and it helps us continue making more videos like this.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the psychology of a place defined by absolute mind-bending extremes. We're talking about a city that boasts 18 Fortune 500 companies and the busiest airport on Earth, yet simultaneously holds the title for the absolute highest income inequality in America. This is Atlanta, a city with a seal whose Latin motto literally translates to rising again. You know, most cities have a downtown, while Atlanta has a thesis statement. So what kind of place literally keeps catching fire, only to rebuild itself richer every single time? It's a genuine mystery. We're looking at a city that builds its civic identity, its economy, and its very psychology right on top of its own ashes. To really understand how Atlanta operates today, we have to look at a deeply ingrained habit that kicked off over a century and a half ago.
Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine a city so traumatized that it actually dates itself from its own funeral. Let's go all the way back to 1864. Union General William Tecumseh Sherman captures Atlanta, which was the logistics brain of the Confederacy at the time, and orders its military infrastructure burned. Well, the fire spread like wildfire, destroying up to 5,000 buildings. The place was effectively wiped off the map. But then, fast forward to 1865, and it's already reincorporated. Instead of becoming cautious after being burned to the ground, Atlanta did something aggressively psychological. It made destruction its brand.
And that brings us to what we can call the Phoenix Complex. Atlanta's official motto is resurgence. Because the city was forced to rebuild from absolute scratch, it never developed the preservationist instincts of older southern cities, like, say, Charleston. There were basically no historic buildings left to fight over, so the default municipal mindset just became tear it down, build something newer, declare a renaissance, and issue a press release. The city actually monetizes this lack of nostalgia, completely turning over its downtown skyline roughly every generation. And that constant tension between rebirth and erasure, it leads us directly into our city's most fascinating contradiction.
Section 1.
The Black Mecca Paradox. Dream versus data.
First up, let's look at the dream. And honestly, it's very real. Since 1971, Atlanta has been known as the Black Mecca, and the data totally backs up that gravitational pull. You've got a 53% black home ownership rate, easily beating the national average. Over 30% hold bachelor's degrees. It's home to the Atlanta University Center, the largest consortium of historically black colleges anywhere. And politically, the city has maintained an unbroken 52-year streak of black mayors. I mean, if you were designing a city for maximum black upward mobility and institutional power, you'd build exactly this.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the harsh reality existing right inside that very same Mecca. Just consider this staggering disparity. The median household income for a white family in Atlanta is roughly $83,000. But for a black family, it's about $28,000. We are talking about a nearly 3-to-1 racial wealth gap existing inside a city famous for black prosperity. Which leads us to this massive number, 0.5786. That is Atlanta's Gini coefficient, the standard measure of income inequality, and it makes Atlanta the most unequal city in America. So how does this happen? Well, the economy here is sharply bifurcated. The Fortune 500 headquarters concentrate highly paid executive jobs that remain disproportionately white, while the massive hospitality and airport sectors concentrate low-wage jobs that are disproportionately black. You effectively have two totally different Atlantas standing on the exact same patch of land. So if the dream is so contested, why does everyone still want to copy Atlanta?
Section 2. Exporting culture, importing traffic. The mechanism of the boom.
See, Atlanta quietly became the production engine for American mass culture. Take music, for example. Almost 1/5 of all U.S. hip-hop revenue flows straight through Atlanta. And this isn't just about legacy. It's an active, constantly mutating machine. From the Dungeon family, to crunk, to trap, to drill. Each wave is monetized, exported globally, and then replaced by the next subgenre before the rest of the industry can even catch up. This sound recording industry employs 12,500 people with a massive $1.2 billion payroll.
But the film side of this cultural takeover, pure, brilliant policy mechanics. Georgia passed an uncapped film tax credit. Here's how the whole shebang works. Productions get a 20% base credit plus a 10% bonus just for slapping a little peach logo in the credits. But the real game changer is that these credits are transferable. Hollywood studios can literally sell them to wealthy Georgia taxpayers. This policy effectively subsidizes Hollywood, resulting in 6 million square feet of sound stages and a record $4.1 billion in film spending back in 2023. Atlanta is literally writing the code for American pop culture.
But honestly, you gotta ask, what holds this sprawling mess together? Because while Atlanta is exporting all this glamorous culture to the rest of the world, physically navigating the city itself is a famously tragic experience for the people actually living there.
The short answer? Urban sprawl. Atlanta basically lost a fight with geometry. There are no natural borders, no oceans, no mountains, stopping its outward growth. So it simply spilled out in every direction, swelling to a metro population of nearly 6.3 million people deeply dependent on cars. And a major reason for this comes down to racial politics. The regional transit system, MARTA, was historically crippled by suburban counties voting against joining, largely out of a fear of connecting their white suburbs to the black urban core. Add in something called the Maddox Amendment, capping operational spending, and you get a heavily fragmented, car-dependent region.
And this brilliantly illustrates what actually keeps it running. 108.1 million. That's the number of passengers that passed through Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport in 2024, maintaining its title as the busiest airport on Earth. In a deeply segregated and unequal region, the airport is the central nervous system holding the whole thing together. It's the ultimate equalizer. Actually, scratch that. It's the only place the $83,000 household and the $28,000 household reliably share space, standing together in the security line at 6:15 a.m. Which perfectly tees up our next paradox. Section 3. Sacred, profane, and PR. Two operating systems.
Okay, check this out. You have Sunday morning Atlanta operating directly alongside Saturday night Atlanta. On Sunday morning, tens of thousands pack into over 80 megachurches, an ecosystem with incredibly deep civil rights roots and massive political weight. But 11 hours later, Saturday night Atlanta wakes up. Places like Magic City, they aren't just strip clubs. They are the unofficial A&R departments of the American music industry, literally dictating which hip-hop tracks live or die. Both of these systems are massive export industries, and surprisingly, they don't cancel each other out. Both are fundamentally in the business of exporting intense emotional experiences.
Now, all this intensity needs a stage, right? Well, in 1996, Atlanta got the biggest one in the world. The Olympics taught Atlanta a dangerous but highly effective habit, solving its problems by inviting the world over and redeveloping right on top of marginalized neighborhoods. This Olympic playbook catalyzed billions in downtown development, but it displaced many in the process. Today, we're seeing this exact same playbook operating with the Atlanta Beltline, which is a phenomenal urban trail system, but it's also acting as a relentless engine for metro-wide green gentrification. This constant forward momentum relies heavily on a PR slogan coined by Mayor Hartsfield way back in the 1950s, "The city too busy to hate." Historically, this was a brilliant piece of branding by the business establishment to dodge the visible racial violence hurting other southern cities. It led to deals that created immense black wealth and political incorporation. But listen, any slogan repeated for 65 years is going to get its tires kicked. And right now, it's facing its absolute sharpest test in decades.
Which brings us to the Atlanta Public Safety Training Center, widely known as Cop City. Let's look at this impartially, because the tension here is stark. On one side, activists express deep concerns over the militarization of police, the destruction of the urban forest canopy, and the tragic death of a protester named Tortuga. On the flip side, the project has really strong official and corporate backing. Officials argue the $118 million facility is absolutely crucial to replace dilapidated centers and modernize public safety. We're looking at a profound clash between grassroots community activism and corporate-backed city management.
Let's move to the data and see how this builds, because this duality spills right over into the numbers themselves. On a macro level, the PR story is a massive success. Homicides plummeted to a historic low in 2025, which is an incredible 44% drop over 3 years. But down on the micro level, the streets remain volatile. Aggravated assaults are up, and police report an increase in highly unpredictable, bizarre street crimes. The brand says too busy to hate, while the ground reality is, frankly, a lot more complicated and tense. So, what do we take away from all of this?
Finally, Section 4. The Future of America. Monetizing Contradictions.
The ultimate takeaway of this explainer is that Atlanta's real superpower isn't fixing its paradoxes. It's being completely honest about them and effectively monetizing all of them at once. Think about it. You have a diverse urban core, politically fragmented suburbs, an economy anchored by a global airport, insane cultural dominance, and an extreme wealth gap. Atlanta isn't some weird anomaly. It's a direct preview, It's the blueprint for what the rest of America's major urban centers are quietly becoming over the next 20 years.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Is Atlanta the preview of your city's future? Take a look around your own metro area, and you might just see the Atlanta blueprint already under construction. If you found this breakdown valuable and want to understand the hidden structural forces shaping our world, make sure to like and follow for more explainers just like this one. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep questioning the infrastructure around you.